Good morning, everybody. This is Jack Leeson with Startuptrading.com. It is September 18th, 9 o'clock in the morning, 2020, for our economic news events. Over the evening, or last night, we had the Great Britain pound retail sales at 2 a.m., European current account at 4 a.m., 8:30 Bank of England on Tuesday. We have their RBNZ on Tuesday, and then we have PMI numbers out of the U.S. and European markets on Wednesday, with Powell testifying as well. I don't know where he's testifying. I assume Congress. And then, Powell testifies, I guess, for 2 different days, the 24th and the 23rd of next week. So keep that in mind. So that wraps up for news events this week, or I should say today and the following week. Now, I've titled this video No Trade Rule Past 30. Let me just make sure my microphone is working good before I go any further. Yep. No trade rule past 11:30, just because it's quad witch, and once in a while you gotta take half a Friday off at least, just because you gotta get other things done besides stare at a computer. But when with quad witching, you have options expiration, futures expiration, the SPY goes ex dividend, and then I think there's like a rebalancing. I forgot what the other one is. I can't think of it off the top of my head. But basically, there's all of these events that make the market, especially in the later part of the day, a little bit. It's just market orders. Nobody cares about technicals. Big institutions and stuff are either hedging positions or rolling futures contracts, and so it's just a good time to step away. So I'll just start off with the higher time frame analysis here on all of these markets. For gold, we're really still, this wedge here, you could argue, came to this lower trend line, but we're still really coming into the apex of this wedge. Now, I do think if we break below yesterday's low, that gold is going to get bearish, at least down to the 1900 level, and that would be like 40 points below on the break of that wedge. But we're really still up here at the top of the range, and as we got down into, this was a highlighted level from my Jack's Room tab inside of the Discord, that was below 1947.8. Now, there was buyers every single candle below. Now, this was a push for the bears right here at 9 a.m. and instantly rejected. They were not able to really get any continuation below that level. And then the next halfway back long held and completed in the overnight session. So you can see there's definitely still some people interested in getting long down here. Now, opposing that, and what I'm going to look for is the opposing short. Now, we're right at it. We're going to be opening right at it, and it had some resistance, and realistically, we have rotated off of it, 8 or so points, and we only dipped in about 3. But if we get back up and start trading through this 1961, then, maybe we rotate back to the top range in 1974. But I do still think it's going to be a quiet day. We're going into the morning inside of a 50% retracement short in gold. It has already had its first test. So there's really not much to do. If we are going to move lower, I do think we would possibly just retest at 1947, and I think there'd be a support level there again for gold. Moving on to silver, which has rotated all the way to the top of its range and definitely is seeing more action. I just think we're going to rotate all the way back to the bottom of the range here, somewhere between 2680 and 2772. Now, if we rotate down to those levels and can begin a series long, then maybe I'll look to participate. But at this point in time, we've already traded that resistance. We've come out of it heavy. Maybe if we get a 50% retracement short, but I'm just looking for us to rotate lower here in silver and then potentially come into a support that would turn us higher. But there's really not anything I'm looking to do unless we get a move to the lower end of the range and then a bid, some pullback that I can buy. Moving on to the Russell. We are inside of a full 50% retracement short from last week, or this week. It is that Wednesday high, and that level is a 1943.8. That's where our sellers were yesterday, and then we also had buyers at the halfway back long. So the Russell's in a range here between what will be the short and the long. 15.23.7 on the long side, 15.43.8 on the top side. So makes that about a 20-point range. I'm just gonna, leave it at that. It's a 20-point range inside of these levels. We have not held the 50% retracement long. It is pierced and then held in the overnight session. If we get up to 15.58 here today, I would think that would be a fade up towards that top end of the range here. This level for me is going to be acting as resistance. So I'm just going to box that out. For the S&P 500, yesterday we went into the day with this 50% retracement short. Now, it traded perfectly, 33.64.75, and we rotated all the way down to 33.20s. I mean, there's a 40-point drop basically. We got below 33.20s, a 40-point drop off that level. Now, in the overnight session, looks like we're going to be moving up into a retest of that resistance level, And the way to confirm that retest is just look at the last sequence we have, which is a 50% retracement long from the overnight low to high. That is just completed targets. So then you have that European 4 a.m. low to high as your next measured move. But once again, I'm thinking they're going to be like just a little choppy. And that would be a 13.52, that overnight low to high. If we break that, we're just reconfirming the resistance level here for the S&P 500. Moving on to the Dow, same thing. We're inside of this higher time frame short. That's all the way up at 21.83. We're completely rejected out of it Wednesday. We did hold right below that next short, and we're right up on what is a third test. So this is a wedge. And if you just look at the other side of the wedge, it's a broken halfway back long. It retests in the overnight session, and its profit target would lead to like 28,000. Now, I'm only interested in shorting the Dow really if it gives above that level, because that level right there would be a profit target of this. Okay, it'd be a profit target of this. It would be a previous swing low. It's also the top of the range in the 78% retracement for the high of the week to low of the week. So there's multiple confluence levels up there for that 28,000 for me. Now, opposing it, just like the S&P 500 on that smaller time frame, you just have this hourly long. And look how tight these bars are. This is not a market to overtrade. This is 73 points, just overlapping. Breakout, we're most likely going to run into that profit target. But a lot of overlapping action, a lot of inside action here in these indexes. Targets are definitely going to be smaller here today than they were yesterday when we had that big range expansion and then, large halfway backs. Now that we're inside the prior day's action, it can be very choppy, and that's what you're going to see on the quad witch. We had an extension short that traded beautifully yesterday in the NQ. It was an 11,575. Now, it rotated off 100 points within like 20 minutes and then came in for a retest and then rotated off another 170 points. But now in the overnight session, there was a 50% retracement long that was front run and now looks like it's going to complete its profit target. We also can just look for that full 50% retracement from the low of the day to high on a first test only. Just stay on that higher time frame. One of the things we want to be aware of in the NQ that we did see in every other market was the full halfway back short. The full halfway back short in the NQ hasn't traded. The other markets have traded the same setup. That's an 11,223. I just want to make sure I have that level exact. But the full 50% retracement short from the high of the week to low is definitely a potential resistance level. We're also going to have a gap fill right above that. Okay, there's a gap fill there. Basically previous lows of Wednesday. These are all going to be levels that are coming into play. So that is a zone of interest for me for a short setup. Now, anytime we break an extension, what's the setup I like? The 78 fade, right? I don't know if it's going to trade today, but it'll be interesting if it does. The 78% retracement of the range would be a demand zone for me right now, and that's down below 10,958. because we did not hold the extension. Oil has rolled over its futures contract here today, and because of that rollover, makes our charts a little funky. We looks like have held, and this is very strange sequence, but looks like we held Thursday's low to what is the overnight high on Friday, and now we have broken out of the short setup. So this is going to validate this as being a support level. This is not an anticipated support level. It's just seen in hindsight after we break out of shorts. Now, once we break, we'll just look for that next measured move long, that low of the day to high, and we'll keep pulling it up. But this extension below is still valid down here at 30. It's like a 31.88. I'm going to set my alert just above that if we do somehow get an aggressive sell-off. That's the next level I'd look at below. And then the USDJPY is still just running through its extension. So we had an extension that completed on Thursday. And then what actually ended up holding was this 50% resistance short for the day. And we've gone to target. So now we have just a separate sequence. The next halfway back short, the resistance level is at a 104.56. That is a valid resistance level for the USDJPY. And this, the USDJPY, both USDJPY and oil, which is the other market I just went over, have absolutely been some of the best trending markets over the course of the entire week. Consistently, the USDJPY consistently making lower lows and lower highs. Oil, the opposite. Higher highs, higher lows over and over again. Great market to be hitting targets there. Moving on to the Aussie dollar. Still inside this big old range. I would just continue to look at a retest here of this 72.69 support level. It's the halfway back. It's the halfway back from the lows of the range. 72.69 just comes in over and over again. We also have a leg start there. Just going to move some of these around. Can duplicate that. Alrighty. 72.69 and 73.37. Euro, quite a rally out of lows. We have rallied out of lows, broken an extension sequence, and set up in a 50% resistance short. So going into the morning, the euro actually does have a short setup here that could lead us really all the way back to the bottom of the range. All the way back to the bottom of the range. So if this euro completes actually its short, I'll look for the next measured move, because we can come all the way back to the bottom of the range. Because that's all this euro has been doing. It's top of the range, bottom of the range. Now, the last time we went to the top of the range, there was an anticipated, or they tried to buy the halfway back long, dipped on the 61. We spent a couple of days, and then we rotated off the short eventually. Got right back down. So, although there is the possibility of this full 50% retracement long getting participation at 118.02, and there is definitely some support down there, we would want to see a break of the shorts to confirm that support level. I will alert that 18.02 level for when it gets there, but I can see it's just rotating out of the short right back down to 18.02. And the pound is inside another test of its extension. We're in an extension short from 131.72 versus a halfway back long. Now, what I like is, I'd like to see a retest for the long side at the 128.16 level. This is a previous daily swing low. It's also a 78% retracement of the range. And you could actually argue that there was an extension broke last week on Friday. So that is the best trade setup. I'm waiting for the 128.16 here for the GBPUSD. Other than that, I'd have to see a completion of some type of long setup to want to get moving. But, we're right at the top of the range, and as soon as we most likely break through that overnight low, we're going to make our way back to at least a retest of the 128.85s. And then the USDCAD, also, like, all of these currencies are in a range. And that, could be because of quad witch, could be because of FOMC this week. I don't really know. I'm going to draw up these trend lines here, both on the bottom and the top. Make this one purple because it's a lower level trend line. And we'll probably just be witnessing the consolidation of the CAD inside of this wedge until it breaks. And then still this level up here is really what I'd like to sell into. But anyways, guys, that's really everything I got here this morning's trade plan. I will share my levels with the members of the startup trading community. Everybody trade safe. Have a wonderful weekend. I will be here in the morning and then I will be out. So take care and I'll talk to you then. Bye.